The Friends of Canonchet Farm volunteers, in partnership with the town of Narragansett, have been removing invasive plants and restoring native vegetation from the area around Lake Canonchet on Boston Neck Road, across from Narragansett Town Beach, and along a 1.3-mile nature trail in Canonchet Farm.
The Rhode Island Foundation provided us with a $6,000 grant. We got funding from the Rhode Island Foundation under their Community Grants Program. And that's important to put out there because we would not have been able to do this without that grant. The two of them were done by the grant. The first one is about a half mile to the east, and it tells the story of the work we're doing, the removing of invasives and creating a nicer habitat for people who walk. I think it's beautiful. It was a hard road, but we did it. It's wonderful.
I know, it's just perfect.
Professor from URI who tells us what's in this pool in the spring. And we find wood frogs and fairy shrimp. When someone told me that this was a fairy shrimp, I thought, well, do we eat it?
The fact that the shrimp have the capability of living here means that it's wet all year round. But it also means that there's no access to live water. Live water would bring in fish, and fish would eat the shrimp and the salamander eggs. So that's the reason why this is an important place, is because it's prevented from having any kind of predators in it for some of these more delicate species.
During the entire winter, from late fall through April or May, this is water.
You come in the spring and you're going to see a different view altogether from what you've seen here today.
And the work so the community can enjoy.
It's terrific. We're just running down to the shore. We're going to run on the beach and come back this way too, probably. Great way to spend the morning.
And have you seen the signs we've put
Yeah,
out?
Yes,
I
we-
just
we-
noticed a new one over there.
We learned about salamanders and
Yeah,
tree frogs. Or
yeah, exactly.
Something.
And fairy shrimp.
Fairy shrimp,
That's
right.
a new one.
The trails at Canonchet Farms have three major entry points: across from Narragansett Beach, behind the community center near the Narragansett Elementary School, and at the South County Museum.
So from Hoxie Lane to the community center, which is near the elementary school, is about 1.5 miles. So if you walked out there and back, you'd be walking 3 miles. A lot of people walk the trail. So in some ways, more people get to enjoy what we're doing in there, but people get to see, a lot of people get to see what we've done along here, because this is a busy corner, which is why we selected it. And it made a difference in the number of people we had signing up to be members, because we were visible.
East side of Lake Canonchet, just across from Narragansett Beach, perhaps is the most publicly viewed area that has been impacted by the Friends of Canonchet Farm's efforts.
You can see the thick leaves right there, right there, right there. A little bit on the fringe.
The Friends of Canonchet volunteers spend countless hours battling the invasive species to encourage the growth of the Rhode Island native plants. For volunteers, the Friends of Canonchet Farm provide all the necessary training, tools, and safety equipment.
This is knotweed. That's what was all thick in here before, yep.
And then once it gets started, it's hard to keep it back. So this stuff, what we do here is just cut it down so hopefully it wears the plant out after time. There's really no way to dig it all out, but we try to discourage it.
All the dead knotweed was falling over into the pathway that people use both to get to the beach and just to go for a walk. So we tried to take out enough so that the path would be wider. And when we did that, the town realized we were doing it, so they started mowing it wider. So in the process, we've got a pretty wide expanse since we collaborated without realizing we were collaborating. We started the beginning of April, and we worked all the way until today. We start out every weekend, and then we go to every other weekend. That was all Phragmites in there, and when we eliminated them from down there, the bulrushes came up on their own, which is a good thing. Marshmallow, which is like a hibiscus, a pink hibiscus. And when I first came here, there was a lot of it here, and then I didn't see it. It seemed to it did go away because the invasive came in and took over, and the marshmallow just disappeared. But 2 years ago, it came back gangbusters on the island across the way. It was like a Monet painting. You'd look across the water and here would this big bank of pink flowers. It was incredible. And they were all coming up in through here, closer to the water. I gardened, so to speak, with my mother and my Nana. And basically what I did was sit and whatever I could pick up and eat off of their plants, that's what I did. That was my role. And I kind of channel them. I feel close to them when I do things like this. I think they'd be proud of me. This is one of the plants we put in here. It started out about this tall, and it's been 3 years, and it's already this size. It's just amazing.
Our native plants provide year-round beauty, but the invasives choke them and need to be removed.
There's a stone wall under there. It was totally cleared away last year. This is just brand new growth. And one thing, people like to bring them into their houses for decoration, but in the process of doing that, they're distributing the seeds to a new location. So, please people, don't take bittersweet berries and porcelain berries and include them in your fall decorations. Even in 2000, this stone wall was not visible at all because of the amount of invasives that were climbing over it. This is the second sign that we did and the first of the community grant signs, and explains what we're doing here and stacked there to provide habitat for small animals, particularly in the winter, and this sign talks about that. It shows the seasons. Here's the winter, spring, summer, fall, and another shot of winter.
But the work is not easy. Each section, all of the needed tools must be carted in before the work can begin.
We worked hard to clear this wall, and now, of course, the invasives are coming back. We have a mower. In here, there's rocks that are down. And then the other thing you'd like to do, the stuff that's coming over the top of the wall is porcelain berry, which is throughout here. And if we can clear 4 or 5 foot on that back side, we can keep the front side clean. That's today's mission. The mission changes per day, depending on how many people we have and who wants to work and what we've accomplished the week before. So what we try to do in these invasives this time of year is to cut things before they get into their full burying mode. Ready for lawn mowing and clearing on both sides.
Another remarkable result on this beautiful Saturday morning with only a handful of inspired volunteers working. All to work on the trails for the community to enjoy and be encouraged to help out.
Go to our website, canonchet.org.
And we can volunteer too?
You can volunteer.
Okay then.
Do you want to?
Sure.
Volunteer groups are also welcome to help out. Even on a rainy day, it couldn't stop the URI Women's Rowing Team from showing up en masse to wheelbarrow in load after load of gravel to help fortify the trails.
URI Rowers Team, the women from the Rowers Team are here to move gravel for us to smooth out the trail a little bit. They're a great group of women. They're always having a good time. I'm amazed at them.
Good thing the hard-working rowing team is used to being a little wet. Good thing you guys like the water, huh?
Yeah, we love it. Yeah, it's a water sport. And then she brings it in.
And when the sun comes back out, there is plenty to enjoy on the ever-improving trails. Besides the birdhouses and beauty, you will see a lot of G markers on the trail.
G4 indicates that if you have the Geology Trail map, you will find at location G4 an item that's on your map and explains it. We have the geology brochures at the kiosk at the end of the trail. And glacial erratics are stones or boulders that were moved by the glacier and deposited in an area that wasn't made up of the same material as this is. This basically is sitting on Narragansett granite, which is the bedrock of Narragansett. So right here is the beginning of a little loop which goes to the left here or straight ahead and makes a circle. We'll try going this way. We need to get new trees planted in there, new native trees. And I think we're going to be doing that this fall. But if you notice, there are shrubs growing out of the top of the rock. And that's because the rock has deteriorated and begun to provide soil, and then leaves have dropped on it. So the soil now is thick enough up there to support growth.
And the Friends of Canonchet Farms organize walking tours of the property each year, featuring expert guides. This one guided by Jim Carruthers, director of the South County Museum.
Tour for Friends of Canonchet Farm. We partnered with them since we started off, so we have a good working relationship. And so when Kathy Kelleher asked me if I would be interested in doing this talk, I was more than happy to. Property and the concept of the property and how it's maintained and how it's used is really, really important. The average small farmer here in South County would set aside approximately 1 acre to clear at a time. And they would take the rocks and they would just throw them about as far as they could walk with a big rock. So if you think about it, all the rocks would get piled up and then they would put together some sort of a wall. It isn't just pick a rock up in the middle of the field and then kind of dump them together. This has been carefully planned. But notice that the wall is still in excellent condition because it's so strongly built. Just fabulous stuff. And then you aren't going to get too many views like this anywhere else in South County. The marsh hay is accessible, and if you look at some of these openings, you say, why so big? Wagons. In other words, you'd come down here with probably oxen. Horses were not used very much in the late 1700s and early 1800s as work animals. This area in here had been completely ignored by the town. They just didn't have the money to do anything with it. So Friends of Canonchet formed, created a group committee that said, how about letting us maintain some walking trails, create them, improve them, etc., and make it an educational experience. So the Friends of Canonchet Farm work with the Parks and Recreation Department vis-a-vis the town of Narragansett to make this property accessible to the public. This is wide open, accessible to the public. So this is yours. You're from Narragansett or you're from the state of Rhode Island. This is yours.
There is still much to do, and there are big plans in the works for the future.
My name is Randy Collins. I'm a landscape architect with Beta Group, and I've been hired to work on the linear park project for the Friends of Canonchet Farm. So the goal of the project is to create better connectivity from the museum to the beach to the downtown to the pier, and be able to present that as a way of creating a partnership where there can be a win-win scenario. The win-win would be certainly some portions of the project as envisioned being constructed by the DOT at their cost. And to create a sense of interest with plantings and the grading that allow this to become a spot that's inviting for people to want to be over there. One of the things that we're going to explore as well is whether or not we can make a connection of the trail through this area. People love to walk in loops. It gives us, I think, a really good opportunity to make this become a really significant feature for the community.
And with the planned improvements, this area will become a more appealing place for future community events.
Oh, high five!
New friends will be made when you join Friends of Canonchet Farm.
See you later, Kathy.
Bye-bye. Nice to meet you.